All right. The moment we all been waiting for, Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, we talked about Bitcoin on the Monday last week show. As far as it was a few things that led into the Bitcoin conversation. The first, I put the post up on Instagram where it was saying, I said last year that Bitcoin follows historical patterns of
Yep.
4 year cycles, and it was pretty much destined to fall this year. And then on the show, you said Bitcoin is going to fall to 63,000, and then
Hmm.
it was kind of falling this whole week, and then Friday it just kind of fell off. Was it Friday or Thursday?
Thursday.
Thursday it fell
Thursday.
off a cliff, and it went. It felt like $10,000 in one day almost. Like it was. It almost reached. I think it reached 60,000.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think we right
60,000.
there, right before we got to 59, it
Yeah,
reversed.
60,005. Yep.
And then it shot back up. Now it's hovering around 69,000,
70,400. Yep.
70,000 currently. So it's been. But my thing is this: on Thursday, when you see any quality asset that you think is a quality asset, I think you have to buy at least some of it when it hits a 52-week low.
Mhm.
So it hit a
Only if
52.
it's a quality, though.
Yeah, quality.
For those you listening. Yep.
That's not to say that it can't go lower, because it
Yep.
can. Any asset, that's just not even speaking about Bitcoin, it can. But if you see an asset down over 50% and it hits a 52-week low, I think you got to at least have some level of interest in it.
Mhm.
So when you saw that 52-week low, I think anybody with any level of interest in Bitcoin or any level of belief system in Bitcoin, I think you had to be some level of excitement to say,
Mhm.
okay, this is an opportunity to put some money into this thing. And like I said, I mean, not to say that it's only gonna go up from here, because that's not even how it traditionally has worked. But I think if something is down 50% and it hits a 52-week low, even if it still goes lower, long term, you're going to make money if you hold long term. That's going to be difficult, I
That's the
think,
point.
not to
Hold
make
long
money.
term. Yep.
So, all right. So, is the Bitcoin sell off? Is the whole crypto with the whole crypto industry sold off? And like I said, it's some level of recovery. So, Bitcoin sell off still or recovery phase, or what's the deal?
um, Kudos to you who were able to get in. I appreciate you. If I made you money, please put yes in chat. I do think there's some more pain to come. I think it would be like a short dead cat bounce. I can see it going back above Sailor's average price of 76,868, and then coming back down. I think we'll hover around for this month and probably won't start to take off until March. One thing people have to realize, um, not for all firms, but for some firms, when the new money is coming in for clients, they don't usually start to deploy large chunks of that money until March. That's why if there's a recession, the tail end of March will give you an indication how quickly the money is inflowing or outflowing. So while it was a good entry, I do think that we could pull back, and I think we may retouch 65 and some change at some point this month. But I think we'll have a slow push up. It's a couple of factors too. The market right now is not safe. I just illustrated that AI is eating the software world apart, and that's tying into some of the crypto world as well. Like you said, the 4 year cycle is really important. Another thing that we have talked about, but I don't think people are talking about enough, is the pressure that they're trying to put on Michael Saylor. So he's not at a point where he's going to be forced to liquidate at all, but I do think they're trying to make it harder for him to keep the fanfare that he has. And once again, as I said before, it reminds me a lot of the attack that Kathy Wood went under. So I think for this month, we'll have another pullback. We'll eventually break out of that level, though, around March or April. And then we will start to soar back into the 90s. And eventually by summertime, I think we'll be back to that other area that I called of 113, and we'll be good. But the big lesson here for a lot of investors, that Rashad said it without directly saying, wait to an area where there's asymmetric risk where you can't lose. Like that 60,000, 63 level, it's a historic price to be able to get in a year, you'll be elated. Same as
Mhm.
last April when we were screaming, hey, to get in. It's just going to take a little bit of time, maybe 2 or 3 months for it to pan out, for you to be up 50 or 60% in your favor.
Yeah, there's a couple of factors. You touched on the text piece, and traditionally we've seen Bitcoin kind of trend the way that AI trade has trended. And so when we saw a pullback like we did Thursday, you saw a pullback in that as well. And then it was like, hey, the dollar showed a little bit of strength, and so that works against Bitcoin's favor. But I think the other thing is that people actually trade Bitcoin, and so
Absolutely.
when people trade, people have stop losses. Right. And so I think toward the end of January, you saw some people come out of their positions, shorten their positions. It was like $3 billion of outward flow in Bitcoin at
Hmm.
the end of January. You saw a single day event of a liquidation of $1 billion. When you start hitting some thresholds, right? People who bought it at 85 or 87 might have put that stop loss at 78,
Yep.
right? And so you see that drop from, and I know we talked about, you just said it dropped like $10,000 in a day. Well, if it starts hitting that stop loss and people are pulling out and we start watching
It's
that trend
forced
going down,
liquidation. Yep.
oh yeah, the forced liquidation is going to happen. And people are going to say,
Yep.
oh, there's a massive sale. Okay, I got to figure mines out. And it hit that 63 mark. It's crazy. I was on the phone with Alex Good Energy. Shout out to Alex Good Energy.
Shout out to Alex.
We were talking about Bitcoin. I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if it hit 61 at some point. And he was like, wow. And I was telling him the same things I'm saying right now. And then it hit it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yo, this would be a good time. Right. And a lot of people think, oh, it's 60,000. I need to have 60,000 to buy a Bitcoin. I'm like, no, bro. You buy what you can.
You can decide what you can afford.
If you got $100, you can invest $100, right? The percentage is going to be the percentage. If that goes up to 100,000, then you've made whatever percentage that is on your $100. If you invest in the asset, you believe in the asset, and you want to have some exposure to it, you can have a small allocation. You don't have to buy one Bitcoin. Would it be nice to do that? Of course, but you don't have to. You can have fractional positions inside that. So just keep that in mind as well.
Well, you can also buy the ETF, IBIT. There's a few
Yep.
ETFs, but IBIT's the biggest one. BlackRock's ETF, which tracks Bitcoin, but is on the stock market, gives you more. It gives you regulations and gives you certain security aspects that Bitcoin does not have. So that's another way to get Bitcoin exposure if you don't want to invest in Bitcoin directly. But yeah, a lot of people I don't know what they did when they saw Bitcoin drop. You know, whenever you see something drop like that, there's a few things that can happen. You got
Panic.
some group of people is actually happy because they're like, okay, this is my opportunity. Some group of people get greedy and they say, okay, well, 60 is going to 40, so I'm gonna wait. It does sometimes in life it goes to 40, sometimes in life it doesn't go to 40. But that's one group of people. Then the third group of people, panic sellers. They
Yep.
they they see they lost 50% of their money and they just panic and they just selling because they're like, this thing is going to zero and I just I need to get out while I still can. And then as soon as you sell it, it goes right back up again. And then the fourth group of people are just the people that stay on the sidelines forever because once they see this go to 60, they're like, no, this is definitely gonna go to zero now. And they just stay
Yeah.
away from it. They just
And
stay
it's
away
a
from it.
lot of that. Wait, it's 20, it's going to 31. I'm like,
Yeah.
why?
You got the people who are still asking what Bitcoin is, right?
True.
Like even that in that education process is still something that if you look at the ownership of how many people own, it's a small amount of people.
Hmm.
It's like it's still under 10%. So
It's a small private network.
well, some could look at it that way.
Is Satoshi a title or a
Could
leadership?
be it could be a conglomerate.
It's an acronym.
Okay.
Do your rabbit hole search if you want to figure that one out.
Forensic scientists, we need you now.
An acronym.
Interesting.
Let's stay out of trouble.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Please.
Okay, let's talk about okay, so before we leave this topic, 48, does Bitcoin drop to $48,000?
Not this month, for sure. No. In order for a Bitcoin to, because the Bitcoin of old that was not tied to the market ever since BlackRock got involved, it's a different animal. Going back to the Satoshi title question, right? The market would need to slide another probably 20% to get there. The interesting part is software is being destroyed and Dow just hit an all-time high today. So we would need to see the general market slide 20% in order for that to happen, but I don't think that will happen this month by any stretch of the imagination.
All right, let's talk about
But if it does fall to the 40s is not the price to buy. I will say that. Tune in next week for the price. If it does, go to there. Where to buy. Back to you, Tron Rashad.
well, you said if it drops to 40, 40 is not the price to buy. Because if it drops to 40, it's going to go to 20.
Lower.
We're going further than that.
Okay.
But that goes into that. If you look at the average drop down of Bitcoin in that cycle, right? We've seen 90% pullback. We've seen 75% pullback. We've seen 80% pullback.
I think the average is 70.
Well, right now we're only at 50. So there's still some room.
But then it also has been going less and less. Like it started at 90.
That's what I'm saying. We've seen 90.
Then it went 7. So the average is
a
70.
20% reduction every 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.